Hi guys, I'm Shawn here with Jeremy. We're from menzagaming.net. We're bringing you an update for the March Community Comp release, which has just come out today. So it's pretty fresh, and we haven't had a chance to fully absorb the whole thing yet, but we just want to talk about a few of the highlights we've seen, just off the bat. Probably going to talk a little bit about a couple of the codexes that changed, the two big ones being Tau, got a massive overhaul, and we also saw some adjustments to the other power play in the previous few tournaments, which was the Battle Company, and the changes they made to like scout and grab and that sort of thing. So where do you want to start?
G'day guys. So yeah, we've had the March release just come out. Obviously, some pretty significant changes. We've hit. It's been a bit of a, I'd call it a bit of a lowering of the ceiling and raising of the floor. So we've seen not too many changes, but the top dexes have been definitely hit, and we've seen the bottom tier be lifted. And I think quite significant changes for the bottom tier. So
yeah,
in some ways it's quite an exciting update, because definitely we'll see the power level kind of push in. So a lot of those middle tier codexes haven't really changed. Like things like Eldar haven't really changed.
Eldar, Demons, Tyranids,
yeah.
Orcs. There was a few minor adjustments like Lucky Stick and Raveners and that sort of thing, but nothing major just yet. I guess we can talk about Tau. Tau was the biggest one, so we may as well start at the top with Tau. They took some very big penalties, particularly in the way suit spam was going on. So the ceiling on largest unit with suits came down, and they lumped commanders in suits in there with that. They threw them a bone a little bit with the Cold Star suit no longer being included in the cost.
Well,
and the C1's now.
Why don't you read the current costings for Crisis suits? Because I think it's.
You reckon it's pretty relevant?
Yeah, I think we know what the changes are, but
yeah, well, it is relevant.
I mean, prior to this change, suits were comped at units of 6 to 7 suits are a comp, units of 8 to plus suits were 2 comp, and that was the only comp that existed on suits. So basically you could take as many small units, and not even small units, units of 5 suits. You could take as many units of 5 or less suits as you wanted at 0 comp. So we saw multiple armies over multiple states within Australia just spamming suits, winning big events.
And doing very well with those lists and those events. Like MSU suit spam became a very, very powerful play.
We also had Commander Shadow Sun at 2 comp, which combined with a relatively cheap cost of suits allowed for some pretty heinous kind of Tau Death Stars, with obviously utilising target locks to facilitate like a counter MSU capacity. So,
So the commander changes were basically they lost their. It looks like there might be a typo. There's a C1 there that doesn't reference anything. So the Cold Star suit no longer counts as an FMC with the global rule. We also saw Shadow Sun go up a comp, becoming pay credit if you have a unit of 3 or more crisis suits. So that means you're going to be hit by that 3 comp bracket pretty quickly. It's going to be very, very hard to avoid. The suit costs were the big ones. So the suit costing got lowered from 6 down to 5 or 6 is a comp, and then from 7 or more is now 2 credits.
Okay.
Tau battle suits went on the table, which was pretty important that they probably needed to have. Now, as soon as you take any more than 6 suits, you're going to start hitting comp on the bracket, and that includes the commanders.
And I think that's an interesting development, because prior to that, commanders weren't. Their comp was a C1 tax. So I felt like for Tau, having that double commander is quite powerful, because it facilitates having a buff commander and a tank commander, which you kind of want when you're spending so many points, both comp points and game points, on such a powerful buff commander. You don't really want that unit taking hits. So even though you can take the Iridium armor on that same commander, you don't really want to have him at the front of unit taking 12 saves, because if he does happen to die, fail some lookout saves, etc., you don't really want to risk that. So people were taking the double commander, paying a comp. Now that comp, you don't have to spend that anymore, but 4 suits and 2 commanders is the max you can have before you hit that.
That's probably going to be your optimal play now. The two commanders in a unit of 4 suits, and then you can still run maybe pay a credit, maybe pay 2 credits worth of suits, and then you just take MSU suits around that. I think that's going to be.
So we've got the top end with the 10. So for 1 comp you can get 10 crisis bodies.
Yeah.
So if you were to run 2 commanders and a unit of 4 suits, so you got your unit of 6 there without paying the comp.
Yep.
You've still got 4 extra bodies, so then you can, as you said, you could have 2 units of 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably what Tau will be looking at for crisis suits.
And it just means they'll just fall into their other supporting elements, which are still really good, relatively speaking. They're obviously not as good as some of the other options in the codex, but we'll definitely see more diversity across Tau lists now, which is probably what the document was trying to do, and I think it'll achieve that pretty well. Broadside's got another big hit as well, or not really a hit as much as an adjustment. You can't spam as many small units of broadside suits as you were up to before, because again they've gone into a table, same as Crisis
Well,
suits have.
broadsides, I think it's almost just up comping. Like there's been there's certain configurations you can take that remain the same, but any situation where you're taking more than 2 or more units of suits, you're getting up comped. So broadsides have effectively been up comped. Whether or not that cost was needed depends on who you ask. But you know, we know broadsides in mass are a powerful play. They've been adjusted. You can still take a unit of 2 broadsides with plasma and missile pod, which a lot of people were taking to dodge comp previously. You can still take 1 unit of 2 for free. So I think that'll be an auto include any tower list.
You can actually take a unit of 3 for free as well now.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's a lateral transition, I suppose, in that smaller amount. But as soon as you start taking more than 4 or 5 suits, you're going to be paying big points. The other one that went up, which a lot of people were very happy about, was the Storm Surge. I don't know whether or not it was needed in that particular way, but it went through.
Well, we know why it went up. We went up because of the ruling. Like for a long time, there was a kind of a very nebulous ruling about whether or not gargantuan monstrous creatures could fire all their weapons. Certain FAQs made different rulings, but then Games Workshop came out and actually just straight up did it themselves.
Yeah.
As far as I know, is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So based on that, we've had to respond. So Community Comp has basically said, in light of GMCs being able to fire all their weapons, Storm Surges have to go up. Which is, I think that's fair, because they definitely improve. Like, the biggest improvement is that you can fire all your D missiles as a turn 1 alpha strike. So you can, when in the past each D missile counted as a weapon, which was quite disastrous because it meant if you wanted to fire D missiles,
you were sacrificing the other relevant guns.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so that changed. I think they definitely needed to go up. It's 7 comp now, in addition to the minimum of kind of 1 you'll be spending on markers, makes it quite difficult. Or you know, it's still a good play, but there's definitely some sacrifices that will have to be made alongside that conclusion. And
the other big one we saw was Battle Company as well. The Battle Company. The version we saw doing really well in the competitive meta was the Grav Company, which is the scouting Grav using White Scar chapter tactics with Kasarkan. That costing got adjusted so that previously a player was in a situation where if they wanted to take this Grav thing, they had to pay 3 comp for Kasarkan, and then once you pay that 3 credits, you kind of wanted to max the value. So you would end up taking I took 8 Grav cannons in my list, and a lot of people had a lot of problems with that, as you would expect. But now with the comping, it's been adjusted so that Kasarkan no longer costs on his own, has his own cost other than being a White Scars IC. And we rolled that cost into things like scouting transports and scouting Grav cannons. And what that should hopefully mean is that people will still run the Battle Company, but they might only take 2 or 3 Grav cannons, and the rest will be assault cannons. To make a more balanced list, hopefully it'll work out better for everyone.
Effectively what it's done is, it's where there was a very polarized situation where, as Shawn said, once you pay the entry cost, you're kind of obliged to maximize your value. Now, because of that rolling scale, people can afford to take a smattering of Grav on scouting platforms, which I think is a buff for that build, because it means you can take it on a more moderate level. However, what it does do for the community is make it less polarizing. So when you go to a tournament, you might play a couple of Grav battle companies that have a bit of Grav that might still weigh in at a reasonable comp score, and you feel like, oh, that list is pretty good for 7 or 8 comp. But it means you won't hit that 10 comp list that's just taken all the Grav and just destroys you.
Overall, it did up comp the Grav company as it's being run. To uncomped events. In an uncomped event, you won't see that much Grav anymore because you simply can't afford to take it. I think a list I was running went up 3, and a list went up 2.
By uncomped, you mean curved, I think you're saying.
No, capped events. Sorry, I should say capped events. So in capped events, you're not going to see that situation where there was 8 Grav cannons because you just can't take it anymore. But you will now start to see more of the Grav company in the curved events, but it'll be at a more reasonable volume, hopefully working out better for everyone. That's another big thing, I suppose.
Obviously, you know, it creates a situation where people are getting paying appropriately for what they get, which is good. Accurate comping. It took a bit of trial and error to get that correct, but I think the costings are quite good. In that Grav update, there's been a costing on just basic Grav cannons.
Yeah.
So just non-relentless grab cannons are 2 points on the table.
Yep.
Which means that as soon as you hit 6 non-relentless grab cannons, you pay a comp. So it just means that armies that are spamming grab, that are spamming that I guess that
polarizing
mode,
the cannon.
Yeah, they're using a single mode of fire that is extremely a polarizing effect. And they've basically just said that even though a grab cannon with a grab amp is only 2 points at the table, it means that if you're taking grab over multiple sources, then you're eventually it's going to add up in comp. So I think that those changes definitely are good.
Oh, they're definitely healthy changes. Another thing that was pretty relevant there as well was the scouting transports. Battle Company, White Scars Battle Company wasn't the only way that arhappened. We also saw it in some Imperial armor.
It actually only went through as Kosoro Khan though, just in case you didn't see.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
But so not all scouting transports have it. I thought it went through with all scouting rhinos.
No, it just went through as Kosoro.
Well, there you go. So maybe that's something that might change in the future. I'd probably, being on the council, I'd be pushing for that change because there are a number of things that can make that happen.
I think the only other, the main other way that can happen is through, we've got like Sisters of Battle, and of course Raptors, Chapter Tactics, but that's Forge World. So the Forge World update is going to come out soon, so that can be dealt with in that update.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so then there's another big, since we're talking about Imperium, there's another big change that's happened across the board. And that's been a down comping of the Storm Raven from 3 to 2. And when we're dealing with that level of increment, like a 3 comp play for a Storm Raven, that often pulls in other comp. It's kind of like it's got a bit of a gravitational effect where if you're spending 3 comp on a Storm Raven, you kind of want to get value out of it.
Absolutely.
So that going down to 2 is going to be quite big. Like we've already heard discussion about it. Do you think it should have gone down? Like, what do you think about it?
I definitely think it's healthy for the game when it goes down. I mean, I've only played against a couple of Storm Ravens, and each time they were pretty bad. A lot of people saying that they're just too good. We haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen any top table Storm Raven lists. It's something you probably could build an army around, but when you have that 3 comp entry, it makes it hard to try and pull more value out of it while playing at a curved event. So we'll hopefully see more Storm Ravens. And if it becomes a problem, then obviously adjustments would be made, I hope, at that point. But yeah, I think it's healthy.
Yeah, I think Storm Ravens aren't nearly, they don't have the power they may have had in previous editions. Just things in the game now that can deal with Storm Ravens more effectively.
Yeah. Mind Strike missiles aren't a thing anymore, which is a big play.
Yeah.
Other things that changed, we saw a down comping on a number of dreadnoughts, which is really interesting, and this is what Jeremy was saying before about some of the bottom tier armies got a little bit of like an easing of certain compings. We saw BA Furiosos go down to 3 points in the EV chart, giving you 4 for free.
Yeah, so combined, so we got, it wasn't just Furioso Dreadnoughts, it was the Death Company Dreadnoughts and the Libby Dreadnought. So all those Blood Angels BA specific Dreadnoughts got reduced. Some of them were as high as 6 points previously. So we've seen
they were at 6 because they were in line with other Dreadnoughts being AV13.
They were it's quite a drastic change, which in some ways BA needed a bone thrown to them. And I'm not necessarily, I don't feel like those Dreadnoughts are that strong anymore. I think in previous edition, I know Blood Angel players kind of, it was their bread and butter, dropping Furioso Dreadnoughts with the
Fragiosos.
the frag cannon. But I think in this metagame, they're not nearly as strong. However, we've just said you can get 4 for free. So that's pretty good.
Well, yeah,
so
we'll see what happens there.
There's a potential play there with the Storm Raven. You can get 3 drop pods for 3 comps. So that's a 3 comp drop for 3 Dreadnoughts. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say that's game breaking, but it might give some people a hard time.
Well, it's an exciting time for BA. I mean, and this rolls over to Chaos as well, because they've seen a few of their codex specific tools getting an easing, which is going to hopefully see more of that stuff in the game. Like another big change.
Before we discuss the Chaos, I just wanted to say the other Blood Angel change, since we're talking about BA, was that
same priest.
Yeah, Corbulo went down. So Corbulo was 2 before. He's now brought down to 1 in line with the other Sanguinary Priests. I think that was a change that was very welcome and very necessary. I think Corbulo is obviously, brings more to the table than a Sanguinary Priest, but he's constrained to being on foot, so he can't have that bike or that jump pack, which is so important because often a Sanguinary Priest will tag along with a unit of Sanguinary Guard, sometimes Death Company. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, they're healthy changes.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
We saw like a few other peripheral compings, like Stern got an adjustment to his comping, more as like a preemptive measure against like Wolfen that are coming in now, being in the scene. There could be plays there. There's a few other sort of preemptive measures that were taken, hopefully to try and stop anything happening so we have to down comp it later. CSM saw some big adjustments as well.
Yeah, so Chaos are some kind of a faction that's been left in the lurch a lot. Mainly by Games Workshop. Like they haven't had an update. Perhaps they should have received it. There's been kind of peripheral things like the Khorne Demon King Codex, which obviously was a good bone to throw to Khorne, but doesn't leave anyone else in a good spot. So Chaos, we saw some down compings. We saw the mounted sorcerers. No, sorry, just sorcerers, level 3 sorcerers in general without the mark. Obviously, without the mark, it means that they can roll 3 spells on a tree. So the moment they're marked, they have to spend a spell on their marked tree. So the moment you have an unmarked level 3, that sorcerer can put 3 spells into,
a relevant tree.
Biomancy, if they take...
interestingly, they're the only level 3 psyker in the game that can be on a transport and be fast. So they're probably one of the best psychers for tooling into a fast assault Death Star because they can keep up with it. There's no trailing back. There's no limitations there. So they're a really good tool for a player that can, make the most out of assault.
And unlike a lot of things in the Chaos Codex, they're not overcosted. They're cheaper than librarians. They don't have any big offsets that make them worse than librarians. They're just a really powerful unit. So them going from 1C2 to 1C1 is a reasonable change. I don't know how relevant it is because I think very few players were taking that second sorcerer anyway. I don't know if people will take that now, that second level 3. I'm working on a Chaos list where even in light of this change, I will just be taking the single level 3.
Yeah, right.
However, it's a good option to have. But I think the Obliterator change might be something you want to discuss.
The Obliterators have definitely gone down. They've dropped down onto a table now. I'll bring up the costings. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Obliterators are one of those units that sort of everyone talked about and we never really saw them being run. I certainly didn't see many top tables. So I would say it was a well-warranted change. Obliterators getting down comp. Tables have gone down. You can have 3 for free and then you start paying a comp from 4 to 6 and then 2 more comp for 7 to 9.
Yeah, I mean that change I think is fine. I think in this metagame, Obliterators are very, very weak in comparison to any kind of, I guess, past value they may have had. In old metagames, I think I've heard stories about MSU Obliterators being deep strike with great effect. Maybe in conjunction with the the Chaos. Is it the Dimensional Key? There's a piece of war gear. Is that right? Yep. That lets you deep strike accurately after you kill something. So there's some quite powerful synergies that you can do there, and I'm sure in the past they were quite good. But in the current metagame of an abundance of AP2, an abundance of MSU, I feel like, and even things like Interceptor being in the game.
They just haven't kept up with the creep. Do you know what I mean? There's now things in the game like, Necron's having a plethora of models that are just base T5 with reanimation protocols, which is just already better, right? You've got Centurions as well now, and when you compare an Obliterator to any one of those things, it really pales in comparison. So I don't think anyone's going to be sad to see that change.
Like a Necron Heavy Destroyer, I think is straight up better than an Obliterator.
Oh, hands down.
It's 25 points cheaper. So I think that change is very welcome. It lets Chaos players bring those Nurgle Obliterators back into their list without feeling like they're paying ridiculous costs.
Absolutely. So look, that's just
just the last change for Chaos, which is somewhat relevant, is that the spawn of Nurgle are now, instead of paying a comp every time you take a unit of 3 or more, they've now had their cost adjusted on the fast assault table. So instead of being 2 points on the fast assault table with an additional cost of units of 3, a comp, they're now just 4 points on the fast assault table. So that's a more accurate change. It means that there's no holes, like just spamming units of 2, but now you're going to pay a reasonable kind of incremental rate when you decide to.
Yeah, of course. And anyone who wants to take over fast armor with Nurgle bikes, backing Spawn, that sort of thing, then they're going to sort of feel that a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps it up. As I said, it's pretty fresh. It's only just dropped today. We'll probably take a week or so and let it marinate and have a think about what we can sort of do with things, and then we might come back with a state of the meta video hopefully soon, and make some of our predictions and maybe do some list writing and that sort of thing.
Thanks guys, catch you next time.
Thanks guys.